All right, guys. So today in front of me, we're going to be reviewing Green River Distilling Company's Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So in 2016, Green River Distilling Company laid down its first barrels as acting master distiller Ron Call passed the torch to his son Jacob Call, and the rest is history. So with their first release in over 100 years, this one comes in at 90 proof, is aged for more than 5 years. MSRP for this guy is around $35, and the mash bill on this one is 70% corn, 21% winter rye, and 9% 2 and 6 row malted barley. Definitely excited to get into this one, guys. So without further ado, let's go. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get in the nose on this one. Yeah, first thing I get is just a really nice sweet oak. Nice sweet oak, a little bit of like nutmeg, some baking spices on there. I definitely pick up some of that high rye mash bill in there, some of those rye spices. Surprisingly, I don't really pick up any youthful notes on this one so far. Almost gives off like a salted caramel kind of note to it too, a little bit further into the glass. Nice like vanilla fudge, like a salted caramel a little bit further into the glass. Then there's just like this brown sugared, like stewed cherry type of note too. That's kind of further into the glass. Those rye spices kind of are a little bit further away from the glass, but then, like I said, further into the glass, you're starting to get some of that salted caramel, vanilla, like brown sugared, like some dark cherry maybe. Yeah, really nice nose on this one. Again, still no youthful notes. That rye spice is definitely kind of dominating a little bit further away from the glass. That salted caramel, vanilla, some brown sugar, cherry. Beautiful nose on this one. Let's get the palate, guys. Cheers. Yeah, so on this one, one of the first things I get is that rye spice. Definitely dominates the palate there on that first sip. Gives you that nice burn. Kind of like a vanilla fudge that kind of flows from the middle of the palate into the back. Some lingering rye spices that kind of follow along with it. But there's also some of that sweet oak that I picked up on the nose. I'm actually getting onto the back of the palate. So again, first sip, definitely some rye spice heavy sitting there on the middle of the palate. It's a little bit of sweetness on the front of the tongue. Some vanilla fudge kind of flows through from the middle into the back with some of that lingering rye spice and a little bit of some sweet oak there. Really nice first sip. I'm actually surprised. There's still really no youthful notes that I'm picking up on this one. Again, I mean, some of that rye is going to be expected, being a 21%, which is pretty high. Let's get into the second sip, guys. So second sip definitely changed a little bit. Rye spice calmed down. You're still getting some of that flavor there on the middle of the palate. Front of the palate, there's like this cherry cordial type thing. Some cherry, a little bit of like milk chocolate. Not a Luxardo cherry, but there's that cherry chocolate cordial type of like sweetness there on the front of the palate. Going into the middle, some of those rye spices are definitely there. You can taste the rye spice in it. Again, with it being 21%, that could be expected. Some vanilla, and then that vanilla fudge kind of starts to appear there on the middle of the palate, flow into the back with some of those rye spices, and then some of that sweet oak starts to appear more and more now, like a little bit more than the first sip. Really nice palate though. It's not the finish isn't like super long. I would say it's a medium finish, maybe medium to short finish. But those rye spices, like I said, just kind of linger on, give you that nice burn that continues to go down. Let's get into the last sip, guys. Cheers. Yeah, so not too much change there on that third sip. Again, some of that cherry chocolate, like a cordial sweetness there on the front. Middle of the palate, still getting some of those rye spices, some of the flavor from the rye as well, not just the spiciness. And then, kind of from the middle of the palate into the back, you get some of that like a vanilla fudge that kind of flows through into the back with some of those rye spices. There is like a little bit of some dryness, some dark dryness. I don't know if it's like a little bit of like a pipe tobacco, maybe a little bit like a dry leather, that I do pick up there, kind of on the back, and maybe more along the lines of like a sweet pipe tobacco. That may be kind of what I'm tying into some of that sweet oak that I do get, towards the back of the palate and into the finish with some of those rye spices. Not too many baking spices on this one. Like there may be like a hint of cinnamon kind of tied into that back end with some of that sweet oak and some of those rye spices, but definitely not a lot of baking spices on it. There's not a lot of citrus notes coming from this one. It's definitely, the sweetness, that chocolate cherryness that you kind of get on the front of the palate, mixing into those rye spices and then flowing through into that vanilla, which flows through into the finish with some of that sweet oak. Maybe a little bit of cinnamon, and then maybe like a little bit of sweet pipe tobacco that kind of flows through. Honestly, I'm actually quite surprised by this one here. I wasn't expecting it to have as much flavor as it did, being aged a little bit more than 5 years. I actually was expecting some youthful notes coming from this one, and I was pleasantly surprised to not have any of those youthful notes. The rye spices, like I said, expected at being 21%. You're going to get that spiciness. You're going to get some of that rye spice flavor that ties into some of those other tasting notes. Definitely very, very surprised here with this Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey from Green River Distilling Company. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. I want to send a big thank you over to the team at Green River Distilling Company for supplying me with this bottle to review on the channel. Guys, again, overall thoughts, pleasantly surprised with the nose and the palate on this one. Again, actually, in my opinion, it kind of drinks like it's a little bit older. No youthful notes at all. You do get some of that rye spice, some of that spiciness, some of that boldness from that rye, the flavor from the rye spice on the palate. A little bit of the rye spice on the nose, but again, that is expected with it being a 21% rye. Didn't really pick up too much of the barley on there, but again, great. Had a great nose on it, a great palate, a lot of different flavors that I really wasn't expecting. But definitely a pleasant surprise here from Green River Distilling Company, guys. So if you're looking for more reviews like this, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You can also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. And until next time, guys, stay dusty.